First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Rakah, Kwadash. And double honors to the apostles of the Great Millstone, and salutations to the Yakim that is forwarding this ministry throughout the four winds of the earth in continuance, and most importantly, out of the sincerity of your hearts. It's the brother Laban coming at you with another video. And shalom to those that are heeding to the ministry as well. Can't forget about y'all, and as well as the few of the sisters that are watching too. So anyway, let's get into this, shall we? It says, horrifying moment. 18-year-old New Mexico mother tosses her newborn baby into a dumpster. Infant is found alive and crying in a garbage bag 6 hours later. Horrifying footage has captured the moment. A teenager mother hurled her newborn baby into a dumpster before the infant was found alive hours later. Surveillance video shows a woman arriving in the car before opening the back door and tossing a black trash bag into the dumpster in Hobbs, New Mexico, at around 2 p.m. on the 7th of this month. 6 hours later, the footage showed 3 people looking through the dumpster before one of them found the infant inside. Incredibly, the newborn was alive and is now in a stable condition while being cared for in hospital. Let's read the scripture. Let's get the book of Lamentations 4, and we're going to build on that. Lamentations 4 verse 3. Even the sea monsters draw out the breast, and they give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostrich in the wilderness. So Jeremiah is comparing the sea monster, what they do to give suck to their young ones, versus our women, and that our women have become cruel towards their children, like the ostriches in the wilderness. So if your women, especially our women, are being compared to sea monsters, and yet the sea monster draws out the breast for their young ones, then you got a problem. That means our women are highly problematic. And it shows, man. And I mean, if the media was really real about it, you will find out so many cases of this going on, where you have women of the tribes, beginning with the so-called Negro woman, to be exact, and as well as the Latinos and even Native American women, but more in particular the so-called Negro women, the young girls to be exact. You're going to find out that this is going on probably consistently, where you have children that are being tossed into dumpsters. It kind of reminds me of the song that was brought out in the early 90s with Tupac. This young woman, and her name is called Brenda. Brenda got a baby, and when you watch the song and you see the video, that's what it involved: a woman tossing her child in the dumpster. And that's a cruel act. You don't get any crueler than that at all. But the reason why all of this stuff happens, man, we have to take it all the way to the top, because Esau has formulated a society where women can just do what the hell they want, and if they do wrong, then it's pretty much tucked underneath the rug. Everyone turns a blind eye to it. No one says a thing or two, and it gets so quiet that you start hearing just the air blowing between your ears. That's how quiet it gets. And then you have the media that really doesn't go into these kind of topics, or they don't blow these topics out of proportion. But let this had been a man, this would have been all over Sky News. This would have been all over BBC, NBC. All of these different major news outlets would have covered this. But because it's a female, we'll cover it, but then we'll tuck it underneath the rug. We're not going to blow it out of proportion, like if it was a guy that actually did this. You see, and this is why these young girls, and just, I won't call them girls, but young women, can do all of this stuff, because the world that we live in today does not remind women of being accountable and showing responsibility for their actions. And beginning with the JOOS's, to be exact, one of the Rockefellers founded this thing called the Women's Liberation Movement back in 1970. And the reason why that was funded is so that households can be destroyed. So if you take a man out of his household and his children and his wife, eventually the wife is going to be left alone. And because she doesn't have the capability to be stable enough to uphold the household is broken. And once you have a broken household, then that same household has to rely on the system that destroyed it in the first place. And that was the only reason for the women's liberation movement that came in 1970, was to destroy the household of the poor of our people, and as well as just the poor in general, I would say, whether it's our people or if they're in their Edomites that are living in poor conditions. It was really to destroy them so that they cannot defend themselves. And if a household is broken and destroyed, that it cannot defend itself, it's going to lean on something or something that can bring it back together. And that's the system. And that's exactly why, as I'm going to say it the second time coming, why that was funded. And this whole feminism vibration just came in the midst. And you have all women, and as well as women in general, especially in the Western Hemisphere, that have this feministic mentality where they can just do everything by themselves and they can do what men can do and compete with men. And that's still perpetuating the oppression of every household of people that grew up in the Western Hemisphere. Okay? So whenever you hear these kind of cases of women tossing their children or their infants in a garbage bag or a dumpster somewhere, it gets brought out, but it doesn't get brought out too tough, because this world has an agenda to keep perpetuating this idea that women can hold it together as well as men are holding it together, to perpetuate oppression. It's another form of oppression when you promote this idea that women can basically lead over their household and they don't need a man, because once a man steps in the household, then you have a dependent household, a stronger household, and more of a structured household. As well as the Rothschilds know. The Rothschilds know and understand that a prosperous household, you need family. You need togetherness within a family unit. So if one part of your family is not around, such as the father, which is the most important part of the child's life, if he's not around and his family members are not around, and as well as the family members of the mother are not in unification with the father's family, what do you have? You have confusion, you have disunity, and ultimately you have a destroyed household. So when families come together, what do? They formulate something, they formulate business, and they prosper in the way that they're supposed to. Families that are together prosper. Families that are not together and are disunitized are destroyed. And the most important part of the family is the man. So if you take the man out of the equation, you have a destroyed household. And then you have a society that paves the way for women to just do whatever the hell it is that they want to do, and be as wicked as they want to be, because women are naturally, being that they are the weaker vessel, they're more prone to being evil than righteous, because women, like I said, because they're the weaker vessel, it's much more difficult for them to uphold a standard that they were taught, to show responsibility and to show accountability. But when you have a man in the household, a man has these qualities and they can show those abilities because they're strong enough to inactivate these abilities in the household, therefore keeping the structure within a household. Okay, so now let's move forward. Let's get Ecclesiastes 7, and we'll begin by reading verse 12 26, actually verse 25. So this is Solomon speaking. I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things and to know the wickedness of folly, even the foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snared in nets and her hands are as bands, who so pleaseth the Most High shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. And there's been many cases of women leading men on to be jumped by a bunch of other men, and as well as women can actually snare you into having to pay child support, in some cases having you take care of a child that's not even yours as well. So there's been many of them cases that's been aired out too. All right. And we've all had experiences with women, and we know how women could be. And we all have experienced that they could do such a thing like this. All right. And certain brothers are going through certain things because of how a woman snared them into being a part of their life, and now they have to take care. They have to pay child support. All right. Verse 27, behold, this have I found, said the preacher, counting one by one to find out the account, which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those I have not found. So out of 1,000 women, he found not one righteous woman. And out of 1,000 men, he found one righteous man. So what does that tell you? That women are just basically wicked, according to the Bible. According to Solomon, to be exact, because think about it. Solomon, if you know about Solomon, you know that he had 1,000 wives. So if anyone that knows how women could be, it would be him. He would be the go-to guy to know if there's any righteous women or not. So he gives an account saying that out of 1,000 men he found one man that was righteous, but out of 1,000 women he found none. And this was 3,000 years ago. We're talking about the ancient world. So how much more now, being that mankind has declined overall? This is why brothers that don't have wives, you're truly generally blessed. And I have to include myself in that, because I don't have a woman myself. Because the women of today, in this day and age, you're going to have a lot of problems, man. Even the Apostle Paul said it. And this was 2,000 years ago. He said, look, if you burn, get you a woman, but just know that you will have trouble in the flesh. That was 2,000 years ago. So again, I say, how much more now, being that everything's declined and mankind has declined more realistically. And that's why brothers that do have women, they're having their problems. And you brothers, you know what I'm talking about, because you have your women. What I'm going to say is this, man, which is obvious, but I'll just say it anyway, because I don't want to put this vibration out there and promoting brothers of breaking, their households. If you have a woman that loves you and she's pleased to dwell with you, as it is written in Corinthians, I believe it's in 1 Corinthians 7, then you got to dwell with that woman. You got to deal with her. You can't put that woman away. As long as she's not committing adultery on you and she's not deterring you from teaching the word of the Lord, then, she ain't doing that. You have to deal with her. All right. But being that I'm talking about this topic, man, basically these women are, naturally wicked because they're the weaker vessel anyway. And this is why women need to dwell in a system, or a society where men can guide them, because women need guidance, man. Women need the guidance so they don't shoot themselves in the foot as they've always been doing as of lately. Let's get Sirach 25 verse 19. All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman, and let the portion of a sinner fall upon her. So, when you read the scriptures, it talks about women being wicked, because that's what they're prone to doing, being that they're the weaker vessel. Now, are there any women that showed some actions of righteousness? Of course they were. There's many of them. But on overall, when you read the scriptures, it doesn't speak too highly of women on that regard, because look what we're seeing in your reality. We're seeing that women are just out here doing all kind of nonsense, and we live in a society where they can just get away with it, and it's just constant. And I mean, if the news was really real about it, like I said, you'll find so many cases of women just doing outlandish things towards their children. And speaking of that, the cruelty of how, especially the women of the tribes are towards their children, a lot of people can tell you that their mothers have beaten them, abused them highly. So-called black comedians would tell you how their mother used to just beat their ass, because they was emotional. And that's what a lot of so-called Negro women do, especially in the past. And I mean, I don't know what's going on with them right now, but I'm pretty doggone sure that's a Floridian term, doggone. It's more of a down south thing, because I used to live down south anyway. But like I said, man, I'm pretty sure that women are out here, man, with their children, and they're just abusing them just for the F of it, because they feel some kind of way. They had a terrible day, so they express their emotions on their little ones, and they know they can get away with this because their little ones can't defend themselves. So they just beat the bricks out of their children, and it's not cool. But all of these women that are cruel to their children like this, man, the Most High got a special judgment for these kind of women. All right. And that's why the apostles, going back to what Solomon is saying, he said he out of 1,000 women he found not one righteous. That's why they say that women are not really in the truth. And I can kind of see why they say that. But that's all I have to really say. I don't want to keep rambling on. I made the point quite clear, and I'm done with this, man. So with that, I'm giving all praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh Bashmi Shai Bashma Rakak Wadash. And with that, I am out onto the next one, and I say Shalom.